The Cowboys play the Commanders in Week 18 for their regular season finale, and everyone is wondering who is starting at quarterback. Will it be Trey Lance? Will it be Cooper Rush? And let me tell you, there is a huge financial implication to it. We'll get into that and some other Week 18 thoughts. Let's go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Prime Time. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network. With a lot more content coming your way, check out a2zsports.com/Dallas. Let's get straight into it. The Cowboys play the Commanders Week 18. It is the season finale. The Cowboys are done. The Commanders are headed to the playoffs. And I don't know if fans are really excited about the actual football matchup that is going to take place, which is a little bit ironic because the Cowboys actually upset the Commanders earlier in the year in what is going to go down as one of the highlights of the year for this team. But then again, you get to Week 18, you're not fighting for anything anymore. The Commanders are fighting for playoff seeding, but even that doesn't feel as fun as, for example, had the Commanders lost last week to the Falcons in that epic Michael Penix versus Jaden Daniels matchup, then the Cowboys would have a chance to knock them out of the playoffs. And that would feel so much more high stakes, you know? And that would have been fun even for this game. But now it feels to me that we are waiting until Sunday gets here only to find out if Trey Lance is going to start or if it's going to be Cooper Rush. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this. Who would you want the Cowboys to start on Sunday? And let me tell you something. There's a little bit of a funny thing that might alter the Cowboys' decision, but not even in the way that you might imagine, because I did the math, okay? And here's what I'm talking about. Cooper Rush has an incentive in his contract, which says that if he plays 45% of the snaps, then he gets $250,000, $250,000. If he gets to 55%, then it's 55. Then it's 500 million. Not 500 million. Can you imagine that? $500,000. So there's a $250,000 on the line for Cooper Rush in this game. Here's the thing, though. Though Cooper Rush can absolutely hit the 55% mark, he kind of needs to play all game for him to hit that, because it's a 52.3% snap count for Cooper Rush right now. Now, you might be thinking, well, 52.3%, he easily gets to 55%, right? With a few snaps on Sunday. He doesn't, right? Because when you do the math, you start realizing, well, if the Cowboys play more snaps without him, then not only is he not playing, the snap count for the entire team is going up. And assuming he plays all game long, right? Cooper Rush would need to play 65 offensive snaps. The Cowboys would need to play 65 snaps for him to hit the 55% mark. That gives him $250,000. You look at the average plays per game in the NFL, and there are only 4 teams in the league that are averaging 65 plays per matchup. And when I think about that, I start realizing that the only way that Cooper Rush gets to 55% is if he plays all game. So basically, if Trey Lance goes out there and plays one drive is all that he needs to play to spoil Cooper Rush's incentive here, unless it's a wild 100 play per game per team kind of game, which I don't think it's going to be. Cooper Rush is in a very tough spot to get to those. Here's how I would put it. Cooper Rush is going to have a tough time getting to 55% snap count for the season, even if he was in no risk of getting benched by the Cowboys. So there are big financial implications for this, and here's where we should ask ourselves, do the Cowboys care about it? Does Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones and company are going to have something to say about Cooper Rush making or not making an additional $250K? we should keep in mind there are plenty of teams that will still pay it off, right? They'll still go, you know what, close enough. Here you go, get this money, right? A lot of owners will do that in the NFL. I'm not entirely sure how Jerry Jones has gone about things in these sort of scenarios, right? So I'm not entirely sure what to expect from him in this case, but that is on the line right now. And I will say it kind of feels like the tone has changed from Mike McCarthy when he's discussing the quarterbacks, because prior to week 18, the message, and I thought it was pretty funny all season long, was when he would be asked, hey, things are looking pretty tough for the team. Are you going to play Trey Lance? And he always said something along the lines of, we are playing to win this game, right? When the Cowboys went to Philly the second time, so this was obviously just last week, right? The message was, we want to go into Philadelphia, division rival, and we want to win this game. That's what Mike McCarthy said just last week. Now, that message implied that Mike McCarthy thought the best chance to win in Philly was playing Cooper Rush. Now, we can talk about whether or not he's right or wrong another day, but that was the response to the questions of, hey, who are you going to play? Now, that was last week when the Cowboys were already eliminated, and that was a handful of weeks before, right? So basically ever since Dak Prescott got injured, after Dak Prescott, they announced that it's going to be a season-ending injury instead of a 4 to 6 week type thing. Mike McCarthy still was saying, hey, we're playing to win, we're playing to win, we're playing to win. And that implied Cooper Rush gives us the best chance to win. That was the message from the Cowboys. Now, though, leading up to Sunday, it kind of feels like Mike McCarthy is being more confidential about things, but also saying we are getting ready or we're getting the players ready to play, something like that, like more on an overall point of view. And it seems like Trey Lance is certainly going to get a chance to play on Sunday. That would be the feeling that I get out of this whole thing. Now, as I said, man, he plays one drive. And Cooper Rush is not getting that money unless Jerry Jones says, hey, you know what? Close enough. And here you go. Take the money. And now, who do you want the Cowboys to start? I know it's always going to be a little bit of a controversial question among Cowboys fans. Hell, we fight about who should start. I know people are going to fight about, or we fight about Dak Prescott. Now we're going to fight about which backup should start. And I get it. People are going to have some strong feelings about it. But I would like to say, keep in mind going into this game, it really kind of doesn't matter because you're not earning anything out of Trey Lance playing this game. Because you're not figuring out what does he bring to the table for next year. He's very unlikely to come back next year to the Cowboys. So just wanted to get that out there. But let's see what you guys think. Cali Cowboys said Trey Lance all day. Give me Trey Lance. So there you go. I know some people will say Cooper Rush, but I think the overwhelming majority just wants Trey Lance to play, man. Right? Cali says they're paying, Trey Lance $5.3 million. So I don't see the point in not playing him, I guess, is what a Cali Cowboy means right here. It's crazy. It's crazy that this is crazy, right? So Mark Aaron, this is actually a perfect comment to build into this. Mark Aaron says, McCarthy didn't even want Trey Lance here. It does feel that way to me, right? Like, are we all on the same page with this? I remember the last time Sky and I did a crossover show, one of the things that we talked about was it kind of feels like it really was all about trying to gain leverage for the Dak Prescott negotiation. And it does kind of feel that this is a move that the front office kind of did without checking in on the coaching staff. And they just did their thing. It didn't pan out because obviously they didn't gain the leverage they thought they would. And it obviously didn't work out, but it kind of feels to me that this was one of those situations where, your kid in Christmas and your parents might get you an expensive gift, but it might just happen to be a gift you don't want to play with. It might happen to be a toy that you were not interested in. because you like Action Man instead of Max Steel, right? That might be one of those. This might be one of those situations. I feel like, and that's why we never saw any of Trey Lance, really. Toxic Tom says, Mo, they could start you this weekend. And I don't know, man. I don't know. You got to keep in mind, I'm shorter than Deuce Vaughn. I'm not sure I would see above any of these offensive linemen in front of me. But if all we want is a quarterback who can take off and run, maybe I can try. Maybe I can try, right? Bruce is forfeit the game, start scouting. Let the Commanders hold a practice and scout some of the players that you like. You might like Dorrance Armstrong. You might like Danny Fowler Jr. Okay, now I'm just being mean. I'm sorry. Toxic Tom says, not gonna lie, I straight up don't give the slightest F who starts at quarterback for this beep beep of a franchise. That is a Toxic Tom's message right there in the chat. And I'm not gonna lie, I do want to see some Trey Lance, but I'm also being honest about why I want to see Trey Lance. And the reason is, I just think it might be fun. I don't think it might be better. I don't think Trey Lance will suddenly blow up and have a breakout game that will make us wonder what could happen in 2025. I don't think any of that. Oh, by the way, Happy New Year. It is already the 25th. It is already 2025. So Happy New Year to everyone. But that's it. That's the reason why I want to see Trey Lance. It will be fun if he does play. If he takes off and run for a first down for a 13-yard gain, I will be excited about watching that. And I won't make too much out of it. But think of me. I'm just a chill guy who enjoys watching football, right? It might be fun in that sense. But yeah, I don't think it does make any other difference. There are some other players with incentives as well. One of them is Limble Joseph. Believe it or not, if he gets to 3 sacks, then he makes $100,000. Also, big shout out to Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith made a lot of money today. So Tyler Smith gets his second Pro Bowl of his career, but this is much sweeter than the first one because the first one was one of those replacement Pro Bowls, right? So the main guy, the guy that actually won, cannot make it. So then they call up the replacement, and he gets the title of being a Pro Bowler, but he wasn't on the original ballot. Why this matters? Because when the Cowboys exercise the 5th-year option, which they're inevitably going to do, then that one is costlier if you made the Pro Bowl in any of your first 3 seasons, but you made it. Not as an alternate, actually voted as a Pro Bowler. So he's going to get like a $4.3 million raise in that 5th-year option. It was going to cost the Cowboys something around $18 million, and now it's going to be around $22 million. So big win for Tyler Smith today, being named to the Pro Bowl. And the Cowboys didn't have any first-team Pro Bowler, though. That was a little bit underwhelming, but still, I don't think anyone is surprised. You got CD in there, Brandon Aubrey, Kevontae Turpin. You had Tyler Smith make it to the Pro Bowl as well. So I'm happy about, as Isidro says, so happy Tyler Smith got the bag and the recognition, right? So this will only go into effect once the 5th-year option is exercised. I don't see why it wouldn't be. The only reason would be a very early contract extension, but the Cowboys don't do that, so we don't have to worry about any of that. So he's going to get that money. It's going to go into effect in 2026 only. But yeah. Toxic Tom says, I want to see an empty stadium. I don't know why any Dallas Cowboys fan would pay to watch that game. It's beyond me. I agree with you. I think that would be maybe a positive, right? To have that empty stadium. But do you want to see something funny? It might not be very funny to most of you watching this right now. This is a 2024 attendance around the NFL. And yeah, not only are the Cowboys the team with the most attendance in the NFL in 2024, they're the most in average, and it isn't even close. Look at that. The Cowboys are at 93,000 people in attendance in average, Number two, which I don't understand how the Jets are number two here. I really don't get it at all. Uh, that's a 13K difference in average, right? It's a wild. There's only two teams above 80,000. Everyone else is on 70 something or less, and the Cowboys are averaging 93,000 fans in attendance per game. I just find that absolutely wild. And again, man, I don't understand how the hell the Jets have so many. It's something that I just don't understand either, right? But anyways, uh, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Toxic. Just thanks, Mo. You're welcome, Toxic. Yeah, I know you wanted to see that. I know that was something that you absolutely wanted to see. And Toxic says, Mo, remember when Enron was making money to calling BS on those numbers? That's maybe a fair concern, but it kind of seems to me that AT&T Stadium is usually quite filled with fans. And I don't know who tracks those numbers. Is it the NFL? Do the teams report these numbers to the league, or how does it work? I'm not entirely sure. So if you think those are dubious numbers, I'll let you be skeptical of that. I really don't know how that reporting works at all. So yeah. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, some more thoughts on Week 18. Really, that kind of feels like that's it. I mean, again, I know it's a division rival. I know all of that, but this feels like I don't even think it feels like last week did, where it was versus Philly, and you could maybe swing a punch to them. And I don't know that this even feels like that. What I do know is some players that I'll be watching out for are obviously one more opportunity for Jalen Tolbert and the young wideouts to do their thing now that CD Lamp is on IR. But I know we've talked so much about Jonathan Mingo. I know we've talked so much about guys like Ryan Flournoy. At this point, what I'm interested in seeing is Jalen Tolbert play some consistent football. I have zero expectations on Tolbert growing to be a wide receiver one in the NFL, maybe a wide receiver two, but at this point, I just want to see him do the things that he does well consistently, and maybe you can treat him as a wide receiver three for next year, right? I think right now the jury's out as far as Jalen Tolbert goes. I think at this point it's unfair to talk about Mingo and Flournoy instead of him. I think this should be about Tolbert, really. I want to see if we get anything out of Jake Ferguson. A spark. Please give us a spark for Ferguson. I will say this too. You can expect the Commanders to come out swinging because they really could use this win. It's more important than it seems, because you might think, well, they're only fighting for seeding, and the seventh seed versus the sixth seed is not that big of a difference. It really is, because if the Packers beat the Bears, which they should, and the Commanders lose to the Cowboys, and they drop their second one to the Cowboys, they would be facing the Eagles in the wild card round. Instead of, if they win their game, they would face either the Rams or the Bucks. I don't think they can face the Falcons, but I think it's just the Bucks or the Rams. So it's the Rams or whoever wins the NFC South. But that's a big difference, because you might very well make the argument that the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. Honestly, you could even make the argument that they're the best team in the NFL. I would argue. They're not my best team, but I think you can make that argument. So yeah, this is all to say the Commanders are going to come out swinging. It's going to be a tough game for the Cowboys. Maybe we can watch out for Deuce Vaughn, right? And I know Deuce Vaughn is likely not going to have a big role with the Cowboys beyond 2024. I don't think he's even going to be on the team beyond 2024. But Zeke is off the team, so I want to see how the Cowboys handle that. I've been hoping for a long time the Cowboys start handing it off to Hunter Lipke again. Maybe this is the game to do so. But the Cowboys do not have their number 2 running back for this one, because they moved on from Zeke. They cut him. I don't know if Zeke is going to end up somewhere, but the idea was to allow him to look for a playoff opportunity, which I don't know that's going to happen. I really don't. Yeah, basically that's it, right? So that's something else to watch out for. Micah Parsons is on the injury report. I don't know that he's going to sit. I would assume he's going to play. And I think knowing Micah, he wants to at least get one more sack or two more sacks, something like that. You know, Cali Cowboy says Saquon is one of the best. Their wide receiver duo is one of the best, and their defense is one of the best. That's a great combination. And it really is. Just the Eagles, you got to respect what they've done, which is why it's funny to hear Stephen Jones talk about how the bill is going to come due to the Eagles. Oh, sure. You want us to spend money just like the Eagles, but make no mistake about it. The Eagles, they're going to be in cap hell in no time, says Stephen Jones, ignoring completely that the team the Eagles won the Super Bowl with in 2017 is a completely different team than the one that went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago versus the Chiefs, and that is significantly different from the one that is a Super Bowl contender in 2024. So yeah, I agree. They're a good team, and it's frustrating to hear Stephen Jones talk about the Eagles. And then people started circulating that clip from Stephen Jones saying some similar stuff about the LA Rams back when they won the Super Bowl. And Stephen Jones talking about, sure, the Rams did fantastic, but they're going to pay for it. And then they've got 2 playoff trips in the last 2 years, which is hilarious. But that's what it is, man. That's what it is in the Cowboys world. Gregory says Turpin should be getting 15 touches on offense minimum. Come on, Mike. Damn. I want to see if Kevontae Turpin gets any chance. I know this is not as a receiver, but I want to see if he gets any chance to return anything from the Commanders after what he did to them in that kickoff return earlier in the year. Because I wouldn't. They are not going to want him to return kicks. They're going to aim for touchbacks, and they're going to aim out of bounds when they punt the football, I would assume. But yeah. John Fisher or Stephen Jones? I would say Stephen Jones. Toxic. Yeah, I would say Stephen Jones to that one. Man. Who else are we watching out for on this game? Because I'm trying to think about the roster right now, and I've given you some names. Marius Leofau continues to wow us, I think. Marius Leofau, one of the bright spots, and that was a tough task for him to become a bright spot even after the Marvin Overshown season-ending injury. I don't think that was easy, and somehow he did it. Somehow he nailed it, and he's still doing it. I want to see perhaps, man, that is tough. Obviously, we talked about the rookies last weekend, right? We talked about Marshawn Nealon, but really, one dude that you're excited about, it's tough to pick. That is tough to pick, but how many times will Booth get burnt, says Mark Aaron? Man. Is Amani is practicing though now. So I don't think Andrew Booth is going to start, right? Because from what I've seen, oh no, wait, Amani ended up in the IR, didn't he? Is Amani currently on the IR? Oh boy, that's gonna be tough. Are we doing the whole Andrew Booth thing again? At what point why hasn't Keemon Hall gotten the chance to play football though? I remember back in training camp, Keemon Hall was making plays left and right, and Mike McCarthy was like, Keemon Hall keeps making plays every single week in practice, every single day, and then he cannot get the start over Andrew Booth Jr. I really don't think he can play. I really don't think he can toss Booth out there, right? Can you? Can you? Man, Mark, I don't know if I'm even gonna be able to sleep after you brought that up. I gotta assume the Cowboys come up with something. Why don't you play Jordan Lewis on the outside even and just let Izzy Mukwamu play on the nickel? I'm not gonna say that Izzy Mukwamu is gonna be a shutdown corner at nickel or that he's gonna solve all of your problems ever, but that has to be a better combination than Andrew Booth, which, as I have consistently said on primetime, was getting burnt in the preseason. And then he was burnt in week 4 by the Giants, got benched at halftime. Amani Oruwariji took over in the second half of week 4. We've known all of this about Andrew Booth Jr. And then the Cowboys go like, yep, lining up versus Devonta Smith. Do it. And it's like, what? And I know people have said, and I have a bone to pick with this, and then we can get out of here with this rant. But I've seen so many people talk about, yeah, but the Cowboys ran out of bodies at cornerback, and that's what happens when you deal with so many injuries. Let's recap, okay? Cowboys could have had Stephon Gilmore for a cap hit that is well under what you're giving Trey Lance, right? That's number one on my list of issues of how the Cowboys handled the cornerback position. Deron Bland was injured in training camp, and you said, hey, he's going to go on PUP. It's going to be 4 weeks without him, and we're not going to sign anybody. We're not going to trade for anybody. Our replacement is going to be 5th-round rookie Kalen Carson, who was promising as a prospect to develop, but was definitely not day one starting material. The Cowboys said, okay, we'll roll with Carson. Carson goes down injured. And by the way, you already saw Andrew Booth get burned consistently in the preseason. And the Cowboys say, okay, we'll go with Andrew Booth. And we won't sign anybody. We won't trade for anybody, even though it's going to take Deron Bland so many more weeks to get back. And sure, there was a setback. He was going to come back in week 6, but that's still over a month of football in a season where you're at 7 wins. And even one more win would be a big difference going into week 18. And they just completely neglected the need for a cornerback when Deron Bland got hurt. And then when Kalen Carson got hurt after that. So that's 2 cornerback losses. One of them happened before the start of the regular season, and they still did nothing. They ran out of bodies. They had no bodies to begin with. There was no depth at a cornerback ever, and that was by design. So I kind of understand when people go like, well, they were seriously banged up at a corner, so that's why Andrew Booth Jr. is playing. But that's not the problem per se. The problem is you never did anything to fix the cornerback position when you were dealing with multiple injuries early on. I'm not saying you would have signed a lockdown corner when the season was already ongoing, but you could have had something. You could have done anything, right? And the Cowboys didn't. And I just, man, I hate to think about the cornerback position because I think that we talk so much about losing Tyron Smith and we talked so much about losing Tyler Biadasz and all of these injuries. And I think, not injuries, excuse me, free agency losses. And I think all along, we kind of underestimated how little they did about the cornerback room. And I keep saying this. Gilmore went under $5 million on the Vikings cap. And Trey Lance takes up over $5 million on yours. And it's so many of these examples that you can find, right, with the Cowboys and the way that they handle the salary cap, where it's like, well, who handles the salary cap for Dallas? And then you make a Google search or two and you go like, oh, I see. But anyways, that's a topic for another day. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button for me. Let's get to the regular season finale and let's talk again on Sunday. And I'll see you 8 p.m. Central to talk some Cowboys football. Hopefully for a Cowboys win. We're likely going to aim closer towards halftime of Sunday Night Football because that's going to be such an epic game. And I know you're going to want to watch it. So I'll come up with a plan to where I'm not getting in the way of your Vikings versus Lions experience. And we might overlap a little bit, but I'm going to do my best so we can fit that right around halftime. I've got the Commanders winning, by the way. Didn't say that. I've got the Commanders winning. I think they're going to come out with their hair on fire. I think they're going to try to win. And I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do at a quarterback. I think both Cooper Rush and Trey Lance play. And I think the Cowboys end up losing to the Commanders. And I know a lot of people like Mark here are going to be rooting for that because of draft positioning. And I kind of feel like on Sunday, we won't be talking about the game. Kind of feel we're going to be talking about Mike McCarthy and the pending decision with Mike. Hit the like button, and I'll see you on Sunday. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye. Happy New